Mm.
If you're going to be a task giver at every point, it's not going to help you and help you forward. So at every point you hire 10 people, but every single step they do, they need your approval. And because in our daily life, we get so stuck in a routine that we think if that Friday paycheck doesn't come, that everything's going to happen, right? The world's going to fall over, right? We help them empower, teach them the steps we've done. And the most important thing with mentorship is like, yes, here's the tried and true process that works, but also here is what we haven't done, what we've done that has not worked.
So without further ado, I'm gonna bring to the show someone that I'm sure is gonna bring value to your life, not just from a mindset perspective or a business perspective, but also a life perspective. Today's guest a little bit different in the sense of I interview a lot of people that I don't typically meet prior to our interview, right? I usually have a little thing, I'd have a little conversation, we meet them in real time. But I've had two opportunities to have we'll call it short, brief conversation with this person. And what I like about this human is they are like me in some ways that I hold dear to my heart. Mostly family's a big priority, success a big priority, but also like carving out time to make sure that what I say is important is actually important. And I was first kind of introduced to this human being by being booked to speak on his stage. And so it was a cool thing. I had to go to this event, had no idea who he was. And I got a chance to meet his wife and had a great conversation. And it was interesting how we had very common interests. And she's like, yeah, sounds just like my husband. And then we actually briefly met in passing on the way to a gym. I think it was like in I want to say Florida. I'm not sure exactly where it was at. And so anyways, I kind of got to know what he's doing and paid attention. Then in the background, we had some connections on Instagram and now we're here chatting. But this person is an individual who's gone through the journey that I think all of us see from the outside, but don't really get to feel in a sense of going through like the reps, we'll call it, of getting great. He is now an individual who is in a very high level in the realm of multifamily properties and how to not just do it for himself, but teaching other people how to do it. And him and his wife have gone the journey together, which is cool. And so without further ado, I'm gonna bring to the show someone that I'm sure is gonna bring value to your life, not just from a mindset perspective or a business perspective, but also a life perspective. So welcome to the show, Jason Yarusi. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Anthony. Excited to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to be here too. Because it's the thing, I think as we get older in life, I find that there are cool people out in the world, but I don't have a lot of time for a bunch of new friends, you know? So it's like this sometimes like the best kind of part of our world, because you and I both know, wife, kids, I don't have time to hop on the phone every other day and like, hey, how's Jay going? Like, but I do love that there are great humans like yourself in the world. And so these little moments, man, they're beautiful for me. But I do have a question that I always start the podcast with, and you can take it wherever you want to take it. And we'll see how it unfolds. So here's the question. I'm walking around town. I sit down next to you. It's Tennessee, I believe. And you turn and for some reason start talking to me. I don't know you yet. Why should I listen to you?
You know, that's a good question, right? And maybe you shouldn't. And I think lots of times in life is that you have to understand what's the best value you can get that you really go out there to serve others. And ultimately where we're at today, and when I think about myself in the space I'm at today, like if I would go talk to myself 10 years prior, right? You get that question a lot. Like, what would you do? What would you say to that person who was like the younger self? And ultimately, like, I wouldn't have listened at that time, right? Because it wouldn't have served me. And so maybe on that part, I could have heard something. And there's always value in hearing others, right? Because whether you agree, or you disagree, it might make your really your argument stronger to help you understand why you really just don't disagree with that person. But
Yeah.
if we sat down together and talked, honestly, from us, we've come to a place where we built a lot of where we are today based on where we didn't want to be, right? We're either running to what we want or running away from what we don't want to be.
True.
Right.
Very true.
And it wasn't a point that we didn't enjoy where we were. We were in a life where Pili and I met, Pili, my wife, who you had mentioned, we met working in bars, right? We were working in bars, working very late nights,
Yeah.
2, 3, 5, 6, 7 a.m. finishing our shifts. And we just knew that was a pace that never stops. And we had friends that were, getting to where even age I am today, that were out there doing it. And there wasn't a cutoff, there wasn't a stop. And if you want to do that life, all power to you. It's fun, you get to meet a lot of people,
Yeah.
but we knew that we had different energies, different ambitions, different places we wanted to be in life. And it wasn't including that mission. And honestly, we did go that route for a while. I'd opened some bars, opened some restaurants, sold a brewery, another restaurant, right? We had done that pace. But when Pili and I, after working together, honestly, 10 years, it took us that long I'll say it took her that long to agree to look at me and be and start having a relationship with me, right? So sometimes it takes a moment, but on that front, when we did, we realized that we wanted to take a different direction in our life and we wanted to start a family. And having small kids and being able to use that space, the bar world, or when we went into construction world, all these things were not going to fit the lifestyle we wanted. It was
Yeah.
not going to give us the energy, the ability, the availability to control our day and control our time. We were in a service business that we had to do to produce, right? There was no
Yeah.
way that we could empower ourselves to really get back our time. Like if I want to take off Tuesday to go with my kids to do something, that wasn't going to be an option, nor would I be in the mind space if I'm just coming home from work at 7 or 8 a.m.
Hmm.
Really. And so our energy and times of what we've learned that we've passed on is that there is no perfect path to where you want to go. It's the path you take and the lessons you learn to carry you to the next step that you want to take. And
Yeah.
you can either keep doing that same day over and over and be happy where you are, or be regretful for what you haven't done, or find ways each day to take a new direction, to
Mhm.
put your energy to serve where you want to be. And it's not
Yeah.
going to be easy. And that's why most spend their day going through the motions and then not really enjoying it
Mhm.
until they change that motion. And there's a select few who go out there and say, enough's enough. I don't care what other people say. I don't care what other people think. I have to do this for me because I know the steps I do today will not only help me, but will help the others around you.
Yeah.
Right.
Gotta agree.
That's the message there.
Yeah, I like that. That's honestly the same way I think, man. It's a matter of they say something has to change for things to change, right? If you do the same thing over and over again, complain all you want, but nothing actually adjusts. And I take myself back to the moments that you're talking about, you and Pili in the bar. And if I recall from our conversation with her, she was like, at one point she was your boss. Is that correct? And then like she left. She made sure to
So
let me know that one.
yeah, so funny enough, my first iteration of working, it was a very popular, crazy nightlife bar that was an outside bar in New York City.
Mm.
So it was only open about 5 6 months a year, and
Yeah.
ended up becoming the biggest outdoor bar in New York City. It was a very well known bar, like it
Yeah.
still is today.
Mm.
I came back from working. I actually met a friend in Europe when I was working over there. He came back and he was doing some construction work, getting the bar ready because the bar basically never, almost couldn't make it through the winter because that's how bad of condition it was
Yeah.
for the summer. And he said, "Hey, listen, if you're working for a construction job, why don't you come on over?" And lo and behold, I meet him, head over to the bar, and Pili is running the bar. Little 23-year-old Pili is running the bar, and she
Yeah.
gives me a job doing construction, right? And that was the start of our journey.
Yeah.
And then she went off to do she was went to California for a while, then back to Hawaii, where she's from, where she was born and raised, then came back to New York. And at that time, somehow throughout the reigns, I think it was almost like battle of attrition, right? Everybody leaves, and it's like, well, who's left? We'll make him the boss. I end up becoming the boss of the place, and
Yeah.
lots transitioned, and it grew, right? It was a small bar, very popular thing, but on my time, it was great. The owners were in that part where you learn a lot of lessons from people, and you don't know those lessons until you go forward.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't stop at that first no, right? You can't stop, and you also sometimes have to do and then ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah.
Because it's when we're doing wait for a response, especially in a city like New York, where it could take months and months. Well, we were able to take that bar and 25x the revenue on that bar.
Yeah.
And it was an incredible journey for what we were able to grow that bar into.
Mhm.
But the lesson learned with the owner was like, he was like, I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep trying things and keep putting people in position. And I'll throw 20 people at one project
Yeah.
because someone's going to get it done. Right. It was the energy of that figured out. And I was able to help dial in and take back and really create some efficiencies, right? Which helped, of course, on payroll and some other points and
Yeah.
really the revenue. But it was just that energy to have someone that gave you really the power to have open ideas.
Mm.
And I learned a lot as I helped really with that, with where I carried on to today, is that I enjoy when people come up and say, we should try this. And because I'm always open for it.
Yeah.
But the thing I'll take back is I'm not going to try it. If you want to try it, I'm welcome to welcome the experience. And if it works, we'll go through it. But this is
Yeah.
something that you have to take ownership of it. And then
Mhm.
that's the step we can see if it's something we can implement in the business today.
Where'd you get that though? Because that sounds like a regular human thought process, right? I operate the same way. Like I'm gonna try to find a way to get it done, but I'm
Yeah.
also aware of what my strengths are, right? So if in my own company or certain things, I'm like, hey, we should do this, but I'm not going to do this, right? So where did that kind of muscle develop? Was it prior to this construction gig? Was it a childhood thing? Like where did that come into play?
Well, the construction, so lo and behold, when we did exit the bar, the thing that was the impetus for this is that Hurricane Sandy happened, decimated the East Coast, a lot of things, or a lot of damage happened. My dad has a business where he lifts and moves buildings. That's what he does.
Oh
So
wow.
his business going from 12 to 13 projects a year grew to, he had like 1,000 phone calls the next day, right? And it would just like carry on from there. So my brother and myself and Pili, who we were now, together, we went out and helped dad, right? And that was that point, and it was this serving notion that we were just stepping from one service to the other. And it was great to help dad, but I knew it wasn't the direction we wanted. But
Yeah.
we're stubborn Italians. My dad's, full blood Italian here, and stubborn Italians always think, even if it's, knocking a hole in the wall or screwing a screw. We always have to do it because no one else is going to do it perfect. No one else is going to do it right, no matter
Yeah.
what task. And we still face and conflict in that notion today.
Mhm.
And my point here is that I just realized that we were wasting really not only our own time, but somebody else's people time, because there's people who that's the best role for them. And that's where the fit, and that's where they can go and be empowered to be their best person themselves.
Yeah.
And if we're taking away that because we're doing something, not only are we taking away from them, but even if we do it perfect, right? Let's say we do it better than everybody else. But now we're only getting one of 10 things done out of the 10 things we need to do, right? So what would be better? Get 10 things done at 85%, or get one thing done 109 at zero,
Yeah.
right? And so the averages, the law of averages says, go with getting it done, because it doesn't always need to be perfect. It needs to be done to help you push forward.
I agree. It's kind of like I tell people, it's like if I have 5 water jugs I'm filling up and I got one singular hose, it's going to take forever. I got to go across all 5. But if I get my one hose and I even have less going into, we'll call it pressure, the rest of it, they're eventually going to get filled up faster than I can with all that, water going in one area. And I like that mentality because that's the one that lets you pull back a little bit. But how do you know to delegate? Because a lot of people have, businesses are starting or they're in some positions and like there's this emotional connection. Do I do it all? And then like when they delegate, sometimes they just, hey, go take care of this, and they let somebody figure it out on their own. What do you think is the best way to set someone up for success when you're delegating like you're talking about?
Well, it's 2 parts. One, you want to know if you actually want to do that, right? Because if you're gonna delegate it and you're gonna be on a part, and then you're gonna dictate every move of them, well, you might as well not even delegate, because then you're basically dictating, being the dictator and just controlling every motion, and you're not gonna empower them to do.
Sure.
If you're going to be a task giver at every point, it's not gonna help you and help you forward. So at every point, you hired 10 people, but every single step they do, they need your approval and need the next step for you, well, then you're defeating the mission. The
Mhm.
point of delegation is to have roles and responsibilities. And trust me, we were not good at this, and it took us really a minute to set up the roles and responsibility. And what we
Mhm.
found is that we hire people that fit well with us. And for them, we empower them to help us build what the role needs to be. Help
Yeah.
us with the roles and responsibility for what this role should be. And
Mhm.
then we can fine tune it from there. Instead of me dictating at every move, you should do this XYZ. Now, when do you need to do this? It's either there's not the best time, but there's the time when it's ahead of the growth, or where you're so busy back against the wall that you have no choice to.
Yeah.
Now, both put you in a position that you will be somewhere. Either you're going to be light because the revenue maybe not keep up to bring that person on, or you're going to be so back in the wall that you're going to feel so pressured, right? But it is a point that you will find when you bring people onto the team, you will do more, right?
Mhm.
If you will do more, if you can control the narrative of what the vision and the mission is.
Mhm.
If everyone around you is coming on board, but everyone's really steering in a different direction, then again, you're going to take yourself away from the goal. But if everybody's clear on the goal, the mission, the vision, the outlying factors of where you want to be,
Mhm.
that group, whether they're all in the same room or virtual or whatever the point, is going to keep pushing forward,
Yeah.
right? And you have to be that person, that lighthouse, who's constantly noting and really positioning where that energy has to come back to. You keep everyone in the same lane.
Yeah. There's a guy I interviewed years, maybe last year, I want to say, a couple years ago, maybe. And I think his book's called CEOs Only Have One Job. And essentially, it's all based around your job's the visionary, man. Like you have the vision, and then you do what you do best, and you hire the rest, right? So you find people that can do that job better than you can eventually, which is really the goal. Like there's certain things I'm like, I could do this, but like my team's way better, right? But letting that go, having the vision, like you're saying, here is I like the lighthouse. We're going here, everybody. Here's what it looks like. You're disappearing. Hey, make a left turn, then that gets everybody back to the same direction. So I love these. These are lessons that anybody can apply anywhere. And I know these happen through hardship typically. Like these are ones where I'm sure you busted some things where you figured it all out, right? And at one point, you and Pili passed on, we'll call it the next stage of the career to go into multifamily. But I usually look at like, what's the awe shift moment within that? What was the one where you go, like, this is awe shift good or awe shift bad that kind of was a catalyst to this next stage of your life you're in now?
Yeah, and it was the culmination of doing a lot of active and a lot of activity. So here we are running the construction business, the business going from doing a 12 to 13 jobs a year to 250, 300. All right.
Mhm.
And again, we had, our first baby was born. Peely was pregnant with our second one. And our goal to get back to control our day, control our time, control our outcome with where we can take our life, our legacy, and our family, right?
Mhm.
If we are so busy in our day to day that we don't have a moment to breathe, not for ourselves or even for our kids, well, we're going completely away from that.
Yeah.
And we could see that veer off. And so we knew that we wanted to get into real estate, right? However, we didn't know what that meant and what that provided. So we did what we thought was right. We started flipping houses, started wholesaling, doing some Airbnbs, and
Mhm.
that was good, right? We're doing good with that. Fine. Okay, great. However, we were just stacking the activity of the construction with more activity of running all these construction projects because here we are in the middle of that. So now we went from, okay, we have no time to less time,
Yeah.
right? And it came to a point where Peely went to a meeting, a real estate meeting, where she met someone who was buying out of state rentals. And that was that moment in time where something went off and we said, well, that seems interesting, right?
Yeah.
You can basically buy this rental out of state, empower teams to get through. Well, that seems like that missing piece. So we did that. We started buying some rentals, some duplexes, some triplexes, and lo and behold, the process starts working, and it's eliminating me from putting myself in the mix, right? So being that stubborn Italian who's getting in the middle of everything and having to
Yeah.
be involved, right? Because I can't. It's 1,000 miles away, right? So I have to get others to be able to do what's going to be best because it's their roles anyway to go there to, of course, help us find the properties, close on the properties, renovate the properties, get them leased out, right? Collect the rent, all the things that can happen. But what came to note is like, this is fantastic, but it's not scalable. I
Mhm.
can't have 100, 200 houses all running around town. It would just be madness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I listened to a podcast or I read a book about someone buying large apartment buildings. So I went back to Peely and I was like, this is great, but what if we just did this with a 50 units or 100 units? Like why not? And she was like, whoa, right? Because there was that moment of just fear because sometimes bigger is scarier, right? Or the thought of bigger is scarier. But we broke it down where if you have apartment buildings and you have the ability to have 100, 200 tenants in there, it's actually a safer investment. And that's why you find so many big players, so many other people that could go in there and they go to maximize the efficiency, just like a big building. And you now have 100, 200 tenants who can pay down your rent. So the bank sees it as a safer option because it's not just me. It's if I have a single family house
Yeah. Yeah.
and its renter is not rented, well, if it's not rented, it's on me. So can I carry it, right? Can I
Yeah.
carry all these rentals, right? And so you get the cash flow, you can have depreciation, tax advantages, you have appreciation that can happen with the market or what you can do to improve these properties. And it was just the improvement in the property. But we didn't know, well, how do I do this? Do I just try and buy these big things myself? Well,
Yeah.
there's a process we do called syndication. And it's where we pool capital along with ourselves from investors, where we can all buy these larger properties, so we can all benefit from the economies of scale.
Yeah.
That made just a ton of sense. So
So
we did that.
how'd you dive into that though? Because that's, I mean, like you said, your wife, she's, like, I don't know, like, how do you get her on board with the idea? And I remember talking to her. She's like, I've learned through our years of marriage that just let Jason run. She's like, she said, I let him run and I trust him and he comes back and tells me when things are done. So how did you did you have to convince her? Was it something you dove in and told her about later? Like, what was that journey to actually dive into this new venture area?
Yeah, I told her about it. I told her all the reasons why, and I let her sit there with them in it. So,
Mhm.
we do go at different paces. I'll go 27 steps, but I realize, and that's been, one of my failures as a husband that I've constantly worked to get better at is that I've talked a lot and then answered for her because she thinks and then answers, and I think and go, right? And there's no wrong. We need both sides, and that's the power of our success here.
Yeah.
However, I had to stop, speak, and then answer her, like ask her a question and then answer the question before she can answer it.
Mhm.
So I let her unravel with that while I came back and found other people that were doing it successfully. I said,
Yeah.
oh, well, like who else is doing this out here? And they started looking at their model and just understanding what were they doing. Some were in different areas and they were all investing in different markets from where they are because they provided what they wanted for those type of investments. So I aligned to get mentors around other people that could be around, that could show me just the steps. And the basic steps are pretty simple. Find a market, find a property, put team together, all of those, right? But the power of mentorship is that there's all these little intricacies that are in between that
Mhm.
can completely disrail you, right? Where you may find all your steps, well, this little question will come up about maybe security law or something, and you don't have any of the resources, and you're trying to find it on Google, and you lose 2 or 3 weeks on it, and all your momentum goes.
Mhm.
The power of mentorship was that we never got off track because we just said, okay, we're going to go from A to B. We're here, and we want to buy an apartment building.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are those steps?
Mhm.
And we just started knocking those steps down. And anytime we got a little off the rail, we said, hey, just a little quick text in 5 minutes, we're back on track.
Mhm.
And we went from having these 2 and 3 units to buying our first in just about a year, 9 months really, our first 94 unit in Louisville, Kentucky. And
Mhm.
that really was the start, because when we got into that, then, we just ripped the Band-Aid off. We're like, stopped doing the single family, stopped doing all those other parts, went all in with multifamily, and we've closed something like, I don't know, 1,800 units since then,
Mhm.
across like 6 or 7 states, valued somewhere like right at 200 million. So
Mhm.
it's been a big, big transition for us, a lot of stages.
Yeah.
But even with that business, Pili and I were doing the first ones by ourselves. We realized we had to bring on team, and that's how
Yeah.
we've continued to grow.
Yeah. This was what, 10 years ago, you said? This is like this whole journey in like a decade.
Yeah, well, honestly, we started in multifamily. We went into multifamily. Like that first conversation with Pili was 2016.
Mhm.
2017 is when we started.
So even less.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah.
I like it, man. I do people get uncomfortable around you? Just in a sense of like that you have this like a stoicness to you, a drive to you. I get like I played football, man. It's how everybody is, right? You have that. But I'm always curious, like people like ourselves, like I'm always wondering, like, do you find that some people like they're in your presence and for some reason like they get out of it because they can't handle the fire?
I do, and Peely, I'm a I'm sure you can understand this, but I'm very good to go into the energy, but
Mhm.
Peely loves being around people all day, and I like, trust me, I'm all about others.
Mhm.
I'm better if you put me in a dark closet and let me go work out and then go in a dark closet and, like, underwrite property and do things, I'm cool, and,
Yeah.
like, I just feel
Yeah.
like we both have our different energies, and that same part is I have to make sure that she has that part of it too, right? Because I can sit there and be good, right, in what
Yeah.
I'm doing, and sometimes my humor, because I don't always have something to say, but when I do, I may be sarcastic on point. I have to
Yeah.
get that people may not catch my humor because it sometimes comes off to a certain notion right there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I completely do.
Yeah, I do. I just because like my wife, she like I'll be out in public. She's like, no one gets your jokes. Like I'll say things and I'm off the cuff. And
Mhm.
I'm a little probably more like just loose and out there. I speak for a living. I do what I have fun, but I do understand the energy that's necessary to actually succeed. And I call it dark work. I call it it's that area where you're doing things to be successful that is uncelebrated, unsexy, it's unseen by most of the world. But that's the stuff that moves the needle. And some people are tuned to be able to do that. Like you said, I can tuck away in the dark, get it done. I think that's the reason why people go, "Oh, you're going so fast." No, you're just going ridiculously slow because you can't shut down. You have to be in public and have you just dial in and get things done. And I've heard a couple times there's this dynamic between you and your wife. I have the same dynamic in a sense of like I'm a big idea optimist. Let's go to work. She's like I have to make complete sense of it. I have to everything be super logical. I'm like, but then it won't always make logical sense. I know that our journey's been difficult. Has your journey, like between you and Billy, has it been easy and smooth? Have there been like push and pull and ebb and flow? Like, what has been that journey? Because I know a lot of people have things with their wives and their husbands. They want to build stuff, and it's not always that gelled.
It's a great question, and the honest answer is we had to learn more the relationship than we did the work side because we spent our
Mhm.
first 10 years together working, right? So that's come more natural,
Yeah.
and I find that all of our disagreements is just a lack of communication.
Hmm.
Right. And you have a family, you're raising a family, all you're like, there's so much different energy. Kids are going left, right, forward, backwards, all at the same time with all these different parts going. You're trying to run a business.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing is that there entrepreneurship, being your own boss is fantastic, but you can never shut off,
Hmm.
right? You can spend all your time working, and you have to choose when is that on and off,
Yeah.
right? And there's going to be certain times where there's going to be seasons where you have to be all in with certain things, right? The kids are sick, you're all in, right? Something needs to get done. We have to get this property closed yesterday. all in, right? So that energy needs to happen, but you have to communicate. And when you don't, right, that's where we've had our we'll say our disturbances in the force, right, of what it is there in terms of what's not been our best moments. It's when we haven't. And we've amazing enough, we've had far and few in between, but we came to say we worked at a bar where they would have on a Saturday 20,000 people. We'd work in some pretty crazy things, and so now it's almost like I'm like, this is quiet, in a weird world, right? So our energy has changed so much that the pressures of work are are always pressures, but someone said to me sometime when we had something go wrong, right, in the past, they said, "This too shall pass,"
Yeah.
right? And I had for it was funny because I thought that he got that from Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, but that was "You shall not
You
pass." I
shall
learned
not
later
pass.
'cause I kept thinking that's what it was, but
Yeah.
it's two, right? Our worst moments 5 years ago, we don't even remember today.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
We do remember the lesson or the feeling, but we don't remember what that event was because it's so minimal or such a speed bump in what actually is our destination and what we've grown into.
Yeah.
And when you can look at that and say, "Okay, well, that wasn't my best moment. What's the lesson here?" That's what you can do. We can't go back in time. We can say, "Okay, how can I improve for the next one? Or how can I take this to grow? Or how can I help others next time where I'm not in this position?" Right?
Mhm.
And if you find yourself constantly in the same position, well, stop. That's a
Mm.
simple thing. Stop,
Mhm.
right? And that's our hardest point is to stop because we get so used to being accustomed.
Yeah, dude, the whole groove. My wife has that tattooed on her foot, "This too shall pass." I wanted to put it on my middle finger at one point, and I never got down to doing it. And it's a good one, it's true, and a buddy of mine one time, I sat down with him, it was years and years ago, and I was just kinda starting business. He was in this multi-million-dollar, service business, and I go, "Man, how do you navigate all this stuff?" He goes, "At the end of the day, to be honest, I have Cadillac problems." He's like, "I have problems. We all have problems. The same road I'm driving on as the next guy," he says, "but I got better shocks. I know to handle the stuff, the ebbs and the flows." And so what I'm hearing you say is like your wife and you've kind of navigated, figured some things out to where things that would shut somebody down slide off your back, not because you're special or magical. You just lifted the weights of life to get strong enough to handle that. You built the shocks for it. And I think that's a necessity for all of us. Do you and your wife have ever have like conversation where you notice like we're like invincible? Because my wife and I sit down, we're like, you know what? We're pretty dope. Like I'd be hard pressed to find a couple that can handle what we can handle in life.
You know what it comes down to, we've constantly gone back to is that problems are everywhere. But if you look at them as problems, they take you down. But if you look at it, the world is made on solution providers,
It
right?
is.
And you can go out there and create solutions. You are always in need.
Mhm.
So, our point, our kids think we're invincible, right? And like all that, that's great in part. But each day, it's us who we have to get over, right? It doesn't matter the thought of anybody else. I find, just like you said with dark work, like every day it's my same mind. And regardless of how good yesterday was, I'm going to wake up with that same doubt or insecurity, that part where I can either listen to it in the morning or I can change the narrative, right? And that's why my morning has been such an important dynamic in just where I go, because if I just let that in, you think how anything goes, right? If you, and it's all around us,
Mhm.
80 something thousand ideas or thoughts a day, so much of that is just stuff that really shouldn't fit.
Yeah.
So when you can
Right.
set the narrative each part to put yourself in a process, that's where your invincibility can come in.
I agree. There's a National Science Foundation did a study and found that there's like between 60 to 80 thoughts per day, 80,000 thoughts per day. Of those, 85% are negative, and of the 85%, 90% are repetitive. It's the same thought
Yeah.
over and over again. And you're actually talking to it in a way that we all experience, right? And I even found out from a neuroscientist that she's like, yeah, in the morning, our brain, we think those negative thoughts and it releases cortisol in our brain, not our cells. Our brain gets addicted to that chemical release. So every morning we'll have the same dark feelings, not realizing we're just kind of addicted to this negativity. And until you switch that, you have a morning routine or something that pulls you out of it actionably, you'll stay in that. And I do recall, like, you have a really dialed in morning routine, like you just mentioned it a moment ago. I do as well. Like, what is your routine, and how does it allow you to take control of your day?
We get up early. I've done this now, and you think it's funny because I used to stay up to 6 a.m. and now I'll get up at 4:32. And I've
Mm.
done that for a fact. Is 4, 3, 2, 1, get up, right? Because you find
Yeah,
you can always hit the snooze button, but the
voice.
second you're up, right?
Yep.
It's just getting up, and that's that first choice. And if you think about your day in your life, if like every point you're going to hit the snooze button or these other points, well, you're just setting up everything else. You're just giving yourself the easy button to get out of everything else you want to do. If that first thing is what you're going to do, so I
Yeah.
get up, have a glass of water, make coffee, have a coffee, and meditate. And that honestly is that first part. Then I'll get out, typically do kettlebells or some work for 25, 30 minutes, and then I'll run. And I've done that to a point very consistently, pretty much every day, right? For where it goes to get myself ready. I come back in. By that time, the kids are starting to wake up. Keely will have her time, go out there and have her morning because she's getting up a little bit later than me.
Mhm.
And then on that part, then we can carry forward to both have our moments for ourselves to get set, to get grounded for everything ahead of us, then go spend time with the kids so we
Mhm.
can be around them. And I put into my day now, of my goals is that, my kids are growing, but I'm going to pick them up every day.
Yeah.
Right. So the first thing I do when I see them, I'm just going to pick them up.
Mhm.
Right. And that's something that I'm going to do every day. And so no matter how I'm feeling, what it is, right, I get up, I do my morning, and I go and pick up my kids. And from there, our morning has now begun
Yeah.
because the work's done before beginning the morning.
I like that. Yeah. I can't pick my kids up anymore. They're like 17, 13.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
It's funny,
They
there's that
start
one
picking you
quote
up,
that
right?
says there's that one day that says, "One time someone picked you up, and it was the last time you ever got picked up," and I go, "Oh, man," it's, like, sad. Nobody even thinks about that, but I like that, man. How do you guys balance the family thing? Because I know I'm a guy, I'm a seasoned dad right now, like, I'm focused on
Yeah.
doing what I'm doing, but not in a way that will ever be detrimental or take away from my kids' childhood with their father. And I know for me, it's not always accepted in the society nowadays. It's hustle, bustle, build, grow. Family's important, but your family never sees you. How have
Yeah.
you guys navigated keeping that as the center?
Just made sure that it's constantly part of the lighthouse.
Mhm.
And trust me, we're not perfect by any means, right? But we make a point, so today's karate, I'll go to karate, so
Yeah,
an hour with them, we'll have dinner, and maybe I'll work after, depending on where we go for the rest of the day. Some
yeah,
energy we have to go there, but make viable time for him because it does go so fast. And we think in our life that there's always going to be that moment we have it, but then it goes away and then they have their life and then they move forward, right? There's parts of the process where things go very quickly
yeah,
and we can either choose to make the time or not, right? And you have to put it where the energy is. There's always going to be another dollar to make. There's always going to be another call to make. There's always going to be another email you have to send. And
yeah,
that's where the level of importance or urgent, right? And if we're always running to what we seem as urgent, then we're constantly just doing a bunch of things that aren't going to lead us. You go after the important. The other things can wait.
yeah,
And it's like anything in life. If you have 50 things in your plate, well, what you probably could drop 47 of them. It's the
mm,
three that you have to maintain. The other 47 are probably not viable. You're making them more important than they are,
I agree.
right?
Mhm.
And so for us, just carrying forward, we've put family as one of those points that can never get dropped.
Yeah,
And that's really been something that we have to work on it all the time.
mhm,
There's points or moments like this is a very busy month for us.
mhm.
Um, but okay, great. We take it when it comes, and then we use the energy elsewhere when it's not here.
Yeah, I like that. And that's how my family does too, man. My wife has her own business and she has, things she does and I have mine, but there's never a ball dropped in that aspect. Like I clear my schedule, move things around. I might have to cancel a good speech because my son's moving into college. I'm not going to miss dropping him off at college, right? But that's the priority. And if I don't make it the priority, something else will make itself my priority. Uh, I want to pull back, because this is something where I'm realizing not everybody has this, we'll call it freedom and gift, right? You can get up in the morning when you want. You can hang with your kids when you want to do it. You can do what you want, travel. And I know that that's we call it an earned lifestyle. And it's mostly, I'm assuming, because of the kind of business that you run. So my question is, what kind of person should look at this as a viable option for their life? Because if they do these things, it's going to be great, right? But not everybody, I think, is fully capable of completing the steps the way you and your wife have. But I know there's a big, large amount of people that really can do it. So in your experience now, and you coach people on this area and give them, guidance, who's the right person for someone that's like this lifestyle?
You have to be patiently impatient, and I'll explain that in a moment because it's talking out of both sides of my mouth. Is that
Mm,
you don't want to be where you are, but you're patient enough to get where you want to be.
Okay.
because we get stuck in a life where everything's so set on just everything in front of us that we expect immediate results, right? You
Mhm.
can just, call something to happen immediately, you hit something on an app, it's right there.
Yeah.
You see everybody else just making these crazy gains, right? Where if you want to change your life, you have to stop what you're doing, because if you're expecting to just do exactly as you're doing every day, you're going to get the same outcomes. And Pili and I both grew up in very, we've just grown up in inconsistency all the time, right?
Yeah.
We working in bars, other points. We never know, having a paycheck. There was no consistency in anything from where we got paid,
Yeah.
right? And so from us, we learned how to adapt to that, to understand that there's always more ways that you can make more money or survive or do other parts of the puzzle. Are you
Yeah.
patient enough for it to happen?
Yeah.
Right? Are you patient enough for those points to come? Because if you're pushing forward and expecting that I'm going to do and I'm going to get right away, that's going to leave everything.
Mhm.
What comes to mind is I started a meetup when we first started this multifamily in New Jersey. First one we had like 15 people. It grew to like 2,500, 3,000 members, right?
Wow.
And the purpose of starting that meetup was just like, I just want to get like-minded people together and talk about multifamily, because I didn't know anybody else in New Jersey. And I was like,
Yeah.
great. So here comes all these people.
Mhm.
And what I found from there is that I had no expectations, and what I got from there was access to deals. I raised millions of dollars from that group, all these things because I had no underlying fact of what I wanted to get, because I just was saying, this is going to be cool to do.
Yeah.
Let's see if something can be made for us all to win together. And
Mhm.
from there, it's created so much value in our lives. But most of the time we do hoping or expecting like, well, I did this and I didn't get this. And that's the wrong way forward. If
Yeah.
you want to change where your life is, you have to go out there and create impact. And that impact is going to serve, and it's going to serve others.
Yeah.
And then honestly, what's the book, The Go Giver? It's going to provide back to you. And you may not know how. And with going into multifamily, there's so many options to win in this space, but you have to be patient. We
Yeah.
find we get a great transition of people who are flippers and wholesalers, and where they're very active and they may be doing 100 deals a year, and that's all well and good. However, can you be patient enough? And the ones who really succeed understand this fact that, okay, the wheels may slow down here of me having to do 100 deals a year, but I might do one and make three times that 100 deals,
Mhm.
right? But I just have to be patient to give it that 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 months to manifest in the steps to do it. Because in our daily life, we get so stuck in a routine that we think if that Friday paycheck doesn't come, that everything's going to happen, right? The world's going to fall over, everything's going to happen, and I'm going to have nothing behind me or nothing as a backdrop.
Mhm.
And that's where we get stuck in our pace, and it's hard for us to disrupt that vision, that version forward.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. I agree, and that's kind of like the ultimate crazy trap we all experience. And I think one of the things that you talked about earlier was you had mentors, right? So you have this we'll call it aspect of, this we'll call it mentors that guide you, and you have this group and everything you lead. And I know that that's kind of one of the catalysts for a lot of people to step into this space. And so for mentorship to be so big and important, I would love you to unpack like how you mentor, because I went to an event where you had a room full of people who see what it is that you put on and how you do it and respect you highly. When you put that kind of into the world the way you do, what's your hope for these people? Like, how are you guiding them, and what are you hoping for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Seven Figure Multifamily is where we teach other like-minded people to go out there and buy their first multifamily property. It could be anywhere from a 4 unit to a 400 unit or anything in between, right? We help them empower, teach them the steps we've done. And the most important thing with mentorship is like, yes, here's the tried and true process that works, but also here is what we haven't done. That what we've done that has not worked, right? And those steps can be even more important at times because they teach you exactly what you shouldn't do, because we've already wasted our energy and spent our time and all of our focus doing those parts of the process.
Mhm.
Then they can avoid those, right? So they can fast track to get to their goals by doing the steps for which others have done successfully to get where they want to be.
Yeah, that's big, man. I think that's kind of where we all should. That's how life's lived, though. It's what parents do. We parent, we guide, we give information, and we kind of step forward. And it's funny, and let's step into the realm of that person, because I know if you're like me, like I have people I coach and guide, even given the information. Some of them, man, they still get apprehensive. They go slow, and then they don't quite break to that next tier. What is the thing that separates the good students from the not so great students?
Take action understand that getting out there outside of your comfort zone is natural, right? We don't want to be outside of our comfort zone. We have to take action. And then surround yourself with other members who can help fill your superpowers. You can know all the parts of the process, but if you're going to try and do it all out of the gate, you're going to try and find the deals, underwrite the deals, put together the team, find all the capital, go out there and figure out how to do the due diligence, understand the construction, source the market, and you're going to try and do all that yourself. It's going to take you longer and make it harder for you to get to your goal instead of saying, okay, here is where my focus is. Here's where my energy, here's where I'm best served. Here's where my superpowers are. And who else has the other superpowers I need to win? And when I find that people can put themselves in a position to be realistic with themselves of where they can serve best, they get to their goals much quicker.
Yeah. Dialed, man. That's the truth about everybody in any aspect of life, man. It's all a matter of not what you know, what do you do with what you know? And I think in our world nowadays, there's this, I think, an over inundation of information. We gather and consume info, and then how squirrels are like responsible for trees. We gather it, put it places, and forget that it's there. Never go access it again. And then it's crazy because if we were just to pay attention to what we do know, do what we already know, man, life would be an amazing kind of thing. And then you develop a skill set to do things. So any information like yourself or somebody teaches somebody, now it actually becomes something you can capitalize on. And it turns into a whole different lifestyle and experience. Man, I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you. And like my brain goes to one last thing. More so because of this where my brain lives right now is like, what do you hope for your kids? Right? Because for me, my kids, I don't see them being exactly like me. I'm a different breed, I had a different childhood, different experiences, and I think their life's a little bit easier than mine. So because of that, it's a different kind of grit. And so I just hope my kids have their own, future. Like, what do you hope for your children when you look at their life, say 15 years from now?
And I hope that we can set the stage so they can understand how to go out there and be the best version of themselves.
Mhm.
And a lot of that is taking risks, of course, calculated risks, but taking risks to understand that that's where the lessons learned. And failure is fine. Failure means you tried,
Yeah.
right? Being worried of failure, being worried of setback is where you get stuck in a position to not be where you want to be. I want them to go out there and explore. I want them to go out there and discover what's possible out there and test themselves.
Mhm.
And if I can give them that, to give them if I'll say the permission that it's okay to go out there and try and fail, and there's always another day, then I'll feel that I've put myself and put them in a great position.
I like it, man. I mean, it's kind of the same thing for me. I think at a certain point in time, like I want my kids, they got to go out and do things because the experience that I have comes from my, bad choices and bad, things that gave me some clarity to move forward. And I don't want them to go through the same hardships, but they got to have their own hardships. And I think a person like yourself, person like myself, we're going to make sure we nudge them, but we'll be there to help them when they fall down. All right. And here's the absolute final question. You can take it wherever you want, but it's one that somebody asked me one time and it really got to me. So I asked this question. What promise did God make to the world when he created you?
I will leave this earth better than I found it by the choices that I make. And they're not always going to be great, but it will be the choices that I choose to make after that last choice I made.
Boom. I like it. Consistency, man. It's a human necessity if you want to be great. Just be consistent. You do that, and I think things work out because it's always a goal to get higher. Man, I appreciate you coming to hang with us. Genuinely, I know you're a busy man, and so to be able to carve out some time, I do genuinely appreciate it.